Hey, this is David again, and today what we're going to do is we're going to make some homemade wine. This is going to be a quick and dirty, easy homemade wine. It's not going to win any taste test or any of that. And if you're a vintner or you know what the term sommelier means or can actually pronounce it, then this probably is not the video for you because we're just going to use bread yeast, some sugar, and some canned grape juice, which you know, if you're really serious about wine, you'll say you can't use bread yeast to make wine. And you know, there's really not a huge difference between bread yeast and champagne yeast and turbo yeast. It's all basically the same type of yeast, and then the main difference is they add different nutrients to it so that you get different results. But basically yeast is yeast. It's just the nutrients in the packet. So really all we're going to do is we're going to mix up some sugar, some yeast, the grape juice, put it in this 5-gallon bucket and let it sit for about a month, and then we'll rack it off, you know, which means get the wine out and leaving all the sediments. And really the only special tools that you need would be an airlock and some sort of plug. And you do that because you need anaerobic conditions. You don't need air touching your must or your grape juice as it ferments, because the air's got all sorts of yeast in it too, and you don't want to add any bad bacteria to your concoction. So keeping everything sterile, keeping everything clean is of the utmost importance. And basically all I did is I just got a food grade bucket, and you're going to want to make sure that you use a food grade bucket with the lid, and it's got an O-ring in there. I took a hole saw, cut a hole in there, bought one of these at a local wine shop for about 75 cents. It's just a little rubber stopper. And then I got this, which is a air fermentation lock, and it was about $1.90. And all I do is I just put water up to it about halfway, and as the CO2 and gases from fermentation are created, it allows the gas to escape so I don't overpressurize this and bust it. But because there's air in there, it keeps the bad stuff out. So lets the bad stuff out, lets the gas in. So what we're going to do now is I've thawed out 4 cans of 100% concentrate fruit juice, and I use grape. And so we're going to mix that with about 3.5 gallons of water, and we're going to pour it in this bucket. And then we're going to take about a half-gallon bucket, half-gallon of water, and heat that with 4 pounds of sugar to make a simple syrup. And we're going to add that into the bucket, and then we're going to take about a half a cup of water, a couple teaspoons of sugar, and 1 of these packets of bread yeast, and mix together until it starts bubbling. Then we're going to add that to the bucket, stir it all up real good, beat the lid on there. Then we're going to put it someplace, you know, warm but not hot. We don't want to kill the yeast, and let it sit for about a month. And really that's all you have to do. Let's go on to the kitchen. So here's my 4 containers of juice, and my bucket only goes to 3 quarts, so I'm going to take 3 of these plus another quart to make 3.5 gallons. So I'll just pour that in, and then I'll just put in 2 more of water. You know, if I was really serious about this and trying to make some sort of varietal wine, or some sort of special wine, you know, maybe with berries from, you know, that I've grown, I might not just use tap water. I might get some distilled water. But the purpose of this is just to show you how easy it is to make one. All you really need is some sort of sugar and a yeast. The reason that they used to make a lot of wine, for one, is to preserve the harvest, but number two, there wasn't a lot of purified or a lot of ways to get clean water. And the yeast, as it eats the sugars, it metabolizes them, and then the waste products are the alcohol. Then as it gets to be a certain percentage of alcohol in there, the alcohol kills the yeast, but that alcohol also kills off the bad stuff. You know, the heat process from the yeast being alive and actually eating the stuff, the body heat combined with the alcohol, you know, will make sure your water really doesn't have a lot of bad stuff in it. You know, if you've got a bottle of vodka or whatever and you let it sit out for, you know, ever, does it ever mold? Not really. And that's kind of the idea why you might want to make alcohol. So next thing we're going to do is I'm going to set this off to the side. Going to get a stock pot. I'm going to put it here on the stove. And I'm going to add half a gallon of water. And I'm going to stir in 4 pounds of sugar. The reason that we're heating it is as we heat it, that's going to allow you to put more sugar, dissolve more sugar in the water. If it was cold water, you know, I would be able to dissolve 4 pounds of sugar. We'll just stir some in. When it gets warm enough where all that dissolves, then I'll put in some more, and I'll keep doing that till I get all the sugar dissolved in the water. What's neat is when this dissolves and you look at it, it looks clear. It looks just like water. And as you put in more sugar each time, it gets a little cloudy. So a good way to tell that you've dissolved it all is it looks like water. It doesn't look like you've got something mixed in it. Alright, so turn the heat off. Bring back the bucket. And we're going to pour that solution in there. Okay, now what we have to do is activate our yeast. Get out the measuring cup. We're going to put a 1/4 cup 1/4 cup of hot water. You know what, I'm not even going to use the jar, I'm just going to stick in the measuring cup. To that, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar. Stir that up real good, let that mix. And then we're going to add in 1 of those yeast packets. And in about 10 minutes or so, that's going to get all nice and bubbly to tell us that the yeast is alive. And when that happens, we're just going to dump it into the pot, stir it up a little bit, put that lock on there, and put it back in the back bedroom for about a month. Okay, you can tell it's kind of bubbly. So all we're going to do, just pour it in there. Make sure that that lid's on there nice and tight. Take my airlock, fill it about halfway up with water. There's a nice little line on there that helps you estimate that. Okay. About halfway up with water. Put it in the stopper, but you don't put it all the way through. Fit it in the hole, and then put it somewhere with a good constant temperature that's not going to be messed with. I'm going to put it in the library because I know that I've got a spot where I can let it sit for about a month and nobody's going to touch it. And then in about a month I'm going to come back and bottle it. So you can consider this part 1, and we'll have a follow-up for part 2 in about a month. And if you want to see a write-up for it, put it online on the blog at www.tngun.com. Thank you.